We now transition to the UFC. And we welcome in James Lynch to the program, a friend of the show at this point, and my dearest best friend on Twitter. So James, thank you for joining us. So Derrick Lewis is going to fight Daniel Cormier. Yet if we could cue up this video, it is Stipe Miocic via his own Twitter handle saying, and it may have been via the UFC, I'm sorry, but it says that's Stipe Miocic on Twitter. Here were his thoughts on Derrick Lewis getting the title shot, and it seems like just the bad taste left in his mouth via defeat.
There's no way in hands I'm a way better fighter than he was. 9 out of 10 times I win that fight, and that was his one time. It kills me inside because I am a way better fighter than he is. I know it is. And everyone else knows it. I think he knows it.
In your opinion, James, is this the fight that we want to see headline UFC 230?
It is. I think Lewis's stock has never been higher. If you look at the comeback victory he had on Saturday at UFC 229 and the post-fight interview, I mean, I forget the social media following that he got after the fight, but it was some incredible number. Like, I think he got 500,000 more followers or something crazy like that. You got to strike while the iron's hot, and they need a main event. The original main event was Valentina Shevchenko against Sijara Eubanks. A lot of people backlash. There's a lot of backlash against that main event, so they needed a quick fix. Lewis won. Don't think people expected it. I don't even think the UFC did because, Lewis won with 11 seconds left. And, Stipe Miocic is rightfully deserving of a rematch against Daniel Cormier, but I can see why the UFC went with Lewis just because of his popularity, that what happened last weekend. And for Cormier, we have to remember there's that Brock Lesnar fight on the table. Mm-hmm. If I'm Cormier, I don't want to fight Stipe again. To me, Derrick Lewis is the easier fight, and the odds makers agree. I don't know if you've seen the odds right now. Cormier is something like a minus 800, so I think it definitely sways in his favor, and him thinking that he can beat Lewis and then eventually fight Lesnar for the big payday.
The UFC is a business, of course, as we know. I agree with you, you got to strike while the iron's hot. But the better fight for most fight fans would be Stipe Miocic, right?
Yes, 100%. But the entertainment value would go with Lewis. I think after this weekend, more people care about Derrick Lewis than they do about Stipe. You made the comment about his interview. Stipe is not a great interview, and as successful as he was as a heavyweight champion, Derrick Lewis at this point is more popular, and I think that's why the UFC is going with that. And unfortunately, Stipe is getting the short end of the stick despite his accomplishments as the heavyweight champion.
Though there will be more fights on the table for Daniel Cormier if he decides not to retire, though we believe that he potentially will after this fight when he turns 40 years old. My question to you is, do we not see some Francis Ngannou in Derrick Lewis? Is he not a guy who just gets tired after a few rounds? I mean, he was dead tired. And that Alexander Volkov fight needed the last 11 seconds in order to win via knockout. Was it stupendous to watch? Yes, absolutely. But I see a lot of Ngannou in him that he just gets so gassed.
It's one of those things where I think that you have to look at what was happening with Derrick Lewis. In that fight, he was losing. I mean, 11 seconds left. He's not winning that fight. And again, they got lightning in a bottle with Lewis winning. He's got the personality. That's why Lewis is such a big underdog here. People are not expecting him to win, but he has that knockout power. It's heavyweight MMA. Anything can happen. So I think that's why they put this matchup together, because again, for DC, it's a winnable fight. For the fans, everyone likes watching Derrick Lewis fight. It's a win-win for the New York card.
Do you know what you could get for $4.99? Maybe one pack of Skittles. You know what's better? A lot of content. So download the TYT app, available on iOS and Android.